My parents refused to help with my surgeries, saying they had no money. But when I found out they gave $500,000 to my husband's cheating ex, I confronted them, and what they said left me speechless. I'm 34 years old. I'm an elementary school teacher. And honestly, I don't even know where to start with this story, because every time I tell it out loud, it sounds so ridiculous that I can't believe it myself. But I need to get it off my chest. Because what I discovered a few months ago about my parents basically destroyed any concept I had of what family means. And the worst part, what really kills me, is that it all started when I needed them the most, when I was literally fighting for my health and could barely stay on my feet. I guess I should start at the beginning. My parents always had money. I mean, they weren't millionaires like yacht and caviar type, but they did very well. My dad has a distribution company, and my mom runs a real estate business, and I grew up in a big house in a nice neighborhood without having to worry about anything. I have a younger sister, and honestly, we were always a normal family. You know, Sunday dinners, beach vacations, that kind of thing. I never thought they were the type of people capable of doing what they did. I met Andrew when I was 28, at a mutual friend's barbecue. He worked as a construction project manager, and I thought he was amazing from the first moment, like that guy who makes you laugh until your stomach hurts and at the same time makes you feel completely safe. We got married 4 years later, and everyone was happy for us, including my parents. What I didn't know at the time, and this is important to understand everything else, is that Andrew had been married before to a woman named Stephanie. They got divorced like 2 years before I met him because she cheated on him, and not once, but multiple times. Andrew didn't talk much about it because obviously it was painful, and I respected that. When my parents met Andrew, everything seemed perfect. They got along well. My dad invited him to play golf. My mom always included him in family meals. Let's say he was the model son-in-law for them. At some point, I don't remember exactly when, Andrew mentioned to them that he'd been married before, but it hadn't worked out. My parents seemed to understand and never made a drama about it. Or so I thought. Everything started falling apart like a year and a half ago. I started feeling sick. Really sick. Like I couldn't get out of bed some days and the pain was constant. I went to several doctors until finally I was diagnosed with a chronic illness that required surgeries and long-term treatment. The thing is, I needed 3 surgeries over an 8-month period. And my health insurance covered part but not all. And also, I was going to have to take unpaid leave from my job because I couldn't stand in front of a classroom full of 7-year-olds when I could barely walk to the bathroom without wanting to cry from pain. Andrew and I sat down to do the math. And basically, we realized we were going to need help. We weren't poor, but we also didn't have tens of thousands of dollars saved for medical emergencies. You know what I mean? So after thinking about it a lot, we decided to ask my parents for help. I felt horrible doing it, honestly, because I had never asked them for money since I left home, but I thought that given the circumstances they would understand. I met with them at their house one Sunday. I explained the whole situation to them, showed them the hospital bills, told them I was going to be without work for several months. My mom got all serious, and my dad started with how things were difficult for them too, that they had a lot of expenses, that the business wasn't doing as well as before. In the end, they gave me $500. $500. I thanked them because I didn't want to seem ungrateful, but inside I was devastated. I couldn't understand how my parents, who had just bought a new luxury car and went on vacation to Europe every year, were telling me they couldn't help me with my surgeries. So I did what I had to do. I got an online tutoring job that I could do from bed when I felt well enough. Andrew took extra shifts on weekends. We sold some things. Basically, I worked 2 jobs while recovering from the surgeries, and it was hell. Literal hell. There were days I'd finish teaching an online class and fall asleep with the computer open because I was so exhausted, I couldn't even close the laptop. Like 8 months passed of this. All 3 surgeries were done. I was starting to feel better physically, although financially we were still tight paying the medical bills. And then my sister, God bless her because she had no idea what she was doing, dropped the bomb that exploded my entire life. We were at a family dinner. One of those that I still attended because I still didn't know I should run away from that family as fast as possible. My sister was talking about a new yoga studio that had opened in her area and that she loved. And then she said, like very casually, "Oh yeah, Stephanie's. You know, Andrew's ex. Mom and Dad are angel investors. There, it's a super nice place." I froze with my fork halfway to my mouth. Andrew froze too. My sister looked at us and realized she had said something very bad. Her face went from pride to confusion, and then to panic in like 3 seconds. I asked her to repeat what she had said, and she stammered something about how she thought I knew, that Mom had mentioned she knew Andrew's ex. I looked at my parents, and my mom was red as a tomato but wasn't saying anything, and my dad was suddenly very interested in his plate of food. I asked them directly, "Did you invest money in Andrew's ex's business?" My dad said yes, that Stephanie was a good businesswoman, and it was a good investment opportunity. He didn't say how much. He didn't apologize for not telling me. Nothing. Andrew took my hand because he could feel I was about to explode. I asked my dad exactly how much they had invested in the yoga studio of the woman who broke their son-in-law's heart. He stayed quiet. My mom said, that wasn't my business, that it was their money and they could do what they wanted with it. I reminded her that when I asked them for help with my surgeries, they told me they didn't have money, that things were difficult. My dad said that was different, that an investment is an investment, and that my medical treatment would have been basically throwing money down the drain. Throwing money down the drain. Those were his exact words to describe helping me pay for surgeries. I needed to be able to function as a normal human being. But investing in a yoga studio of my husband's ex, that was a good financial decision. Dinner got horrible after that. My mom started defending Stephanie, saying she had made mistakes but was trying to improve her life, that yoga had helped her a lot and they wanted to support her. Andrew, who almost never raises his voice, asked them how exactly they had met Stephanie. Turns out she had contacted them on Facebook like a year after she and Andrew got divorced, asking for forgiveness for what she had done and saying she was in therapy. My parents not only accepted her apologies but started meeting with her for coffee, and from there emerged this whole weird relationship where they basically adopted her as another daughter or something. I yelled at them. And when I say I yelled, I mean I really yelled. Something I had never done with them. I told them they were hypocrites. How dare they give thousands of dollars to the woman who cheated on Andrew while I was working 2 jobs after surgery to be able to pay my medical bills? My mom told me I was being melodramatic, that she had suggested I try yoga for my condition instead of depending so much on Western medicine. Can you believe it? She was suggesting yoga to me for a condition that required surgery. I kicked them out of my house. I told them I didn't want to see them again until they could give me a real explanation of why my health was worth less to them than my husband's cheating ex's business. They left, and my mom was crying, but not from guilt, but like angry because I was treating them badly. My sister stayed and cried with me and Andrew, saying she had no idea and would never have mentioned anything if she had known. 2 days later, I received a message from Stephanie. Saying she had heard about our family conflict. So my parents obviously ran to tell her everything, and that she was sorry I was sick, and that if I wanted, I could go to her yoga studio for free whenever I wanted. Free. As if that was what I needed. I didn't respond, just blocked her number. Things got worse. My aunt, my mom's sister, called me like a week later. She and my mom had been fighting for years over something I can't even remember what it was, but suddenly she wanted to talk to me. She told me things I didn't know, things my parents had kept secret. Turns out they hadn't just invested in Stephanie's yoga studio, but had spent the last 3 years basically treating her as part of the family. They celebrated holidays with her when we weren't there, went on vacations together. My mom helped her decorate her apartment. My aunt said it was like they had replaced Andrew with Stephanie after the divorce and simply decided to keep Stephanie, instead of accepting that the marriage was over. I couldn't process the information. It was so surreal, so completely sick, that part of me thought maybe I was in an episode of some horrible reality show. But no, it was my real life. My real parents had built an entire secret relationship with my husband's ex, the woman who had cheated on him repeatedly, and had prioritized her over their own daughter when I needed them most. Like 2 weeks of total silence passed. I wasn't answering my parents' calls, wasn't reading their messages. Andrew was furious, in a way I had never seen him. Like he wanted to go confront them, but I asked him not to because I knew things were going to get ugly. And I was right. One day, I was teaching at school, when the secretary called me over the intercom saying my mother and another woman were in reception asking to see me. Another woman. I already knew who it was. I went down and sure enough, there was my mom with Stephanie, both of them standing at the school entrance. Stephanie looked exactly like in the photos I had seen, like that perfect yoga instructor aesthetic with expensive clothes and hair in a bun. I told the secretary to call security because those people didn't have permission to be there. My mom started crying, saying she just wanted to talk, that this had gotten out of control. Security escorted them out. It was humiliating, having to do that at my workplace in front of my colleagues, but I wasn't going to allow them to invade my space like that. That night, Andrew and I were at the house when we heard someone trying to open the door with a code. We have one of those digital locks with a code, you know what I mean? And someone was putting in numbers trying to get in. Andrew. I grabbed his phone, ready to call the police, and I looked out the window. It was Stephanie. Stephanie was trying to get into my house. Andrew threw open the door and yelled at her what was she doing, and she said, all calm, that my parents had given her the code because they thought she could help mediate the situation. They had given her the code to my house, to Andrew's ex, without asking us. Andrew told her to leave immediately, or we would call the police. She started with a speech about forgiveness and healing, and I don't know what else. But Andrew closed the door in her face and actually called the police to report the incident. We changed all the codes that same night, and Andrew installed security cameras the next day. My sister, who by this point was as horrified as I was, started investigating on her own. Turns out she's an accountant, and since she had access to some of my parents' financial documents for reasons that aren't relevant, she discovered something that made me want to vomit. My parents hadn't invested thousands of dollars in Stephanie's business. They had invested almost $500,000 over the last 3 years. $500,000. The yoga studio, a failed attempt at a sportswear business, and mortgage payments on her house. While I was selling my things and working sick to pay medical bills of $15,000, they had given $500,000 to the woman who destroyed my husband's first marriage. By that point, I had completely cut off contact with my parents. But they weren't giving up. They started calling my friends, my work colleagues, telling them their version of events, where basically I was an ungrateful daughter being manipulated by Andrew, and where Stephanie was a saint who just wanted to help reconcile the family. Several friends forwarded me the messages my parents had sent them, and it was sickening. Like they said I was mentally unstable since the surgeries, that the medications had changed me. That Andrew. I was isolating me from them. One Saturday morning, Andrew went out to run some errands, and I stayed home alone. I looked out the window and saw my parents' car parked on the street. They were just there, sitting, looking at the house. I called the police immediately. When they arrived, my parents told them they were just worried about their daughter and wanted to make sure she was okay. The officers told them to leave, or they could be charged with harassment. They left, but made a whole drama crying and yelling that their daughters had abandoned them. At that point, I consulted with a lawyer about a restraining order. The lawyer told me I had enough evidence to at least try, especially with the incident of Stephanie trying to enter my house with the code. I gathered all the messages, the camera recordings, the testimonies of the police officers. I didn't end up filing the order because my parents finally calmed down, but the lawyer told me to keep everything just in case. My sister and her husband made a huge decision. They completely cut off contact with my parents, too. She told me she couldn't continue having a relationship with people who had done something so twisted, and that she didn't want her children to grow up thinking that type of behavior was normal. My parents called her a traitor, told her she was destroying the family. She told them they had destroyed the family the day they decided Stephanie was more important than their own daughters. The smear campaign continued. My parents told all their family and friends that Andrew was stealing money from me, that he was an abuser, that he was taking advantage of me financially. The complete opposite of reality, since Andrew had worked double shifts to help me pay my medical bills while my own parents were financing their ex's yoga empire. Some relatives believed them, others called me to ask what was really happening. It was exhausting having to explain the situation over and over again. The stress of all this affected my health again. My doctor told me I needed to reduce my workload because my body couldn't handle so much stress on top of recovering from the surgeries. I had to resign from the tutoring job, which was sad because I needed the extra money, but I literally couldn't continue like that. Like 3 weeks later, Andrew received a promotion at his job with a significant raise and better health insurance, which was like a miracle at the perfect time. About a month ago, my parents finally stopped trying to contact me directly. But according to my sister, they're still telling everyone they're the victims in this situation. Stephanie closed her Instagram account after several people who knew the situation started leaving comments on her posts, asking her why she was harassing her ex-husband's family. I don't know if my parents still support her financially. Honestly, I don't want to know. Andrew and I are going to couples therapy. Not because we have problems with each other, but because a therapist told us it would be good to process all this together with professional help. It's been helpful, honestly. It's helping me understand that none of this was my fault, that there's nothing I could have done differently to make my parents act like decent people. We decided to move to a different neighborhood next month. We want a fresh start, a place where my parents don't know where we live, where we don't have to worry about looking out the window and seeing them parked outside. It's sad that it has to come to that point, but here we are. Last week, I was organizing some boxes for the move and found old photos from when I was a child. There's a photo of my dad carrying me on his shoulders at the beach, both of us smiling. I stared at it for a long time, trying to reconcile that dad with the man who told me that helping me with my surgeries would be throwing money down the drain. I can't. They're two different people in my head now. My sister asked me a few days ago if I would ever forgive our parents. I told her honestly, I don't know. That maybe someday in the distant future, if they really understood what they did and truly apologized. I don't know. Maybe. But I also told her I'm not going to wait around for that day because I don't think it will come. They're convinced they did nothing wrong, that I'm the dramatic one and Andrew is the bad guy, and Stephanie is a misunderstood victim. You can't reason with people who live in an alternate reality. Andrew says, I'm the strongest person he knows for going through all this without completely falling apart. I don't feel strong. I feel tired, betrayed, confused. But I guess the fact that I keep moving forward counts as strength. I don't know. Some days are good. Other days, I cry for no apparent reason. I'm working on that with my therapist. What I do know is that the family you choose is more important than the family you have, by blood. Andrew has been with me every step of this nightmare. My sister sacrificed her relationship with our parents in solidarity with me. I have friends who supported me when everything was falling apart. That's my real family now. The others, well, they're just people who share my last name and my DNA. And that's enough for now, I guess.